Hello and welcome to Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Happy Monday. I'm your host, Katie Mox. Coming up on today's show, March Madness has begun. The chaos will commence tomorrow. The brackets are set, but who has the best path to the championship? Also, the first four games will tip off tomorrow. We'll tell you how we are betting the first two. And of course, you know it. You've got some Mox Locks for tonight's NBA games coming your way. But first, we'll welcome in our friend of the show, Mr. Monday, Danny Brasco. How we feeling, Danny?
Not the best Monday. I've been coming in here real hot, celebrating a great weekend, past few weekends. Katie, I got my ass kicked on Saturday. So looking to rebound this week. It happens. You know, you some good times. You're going to have to take the bad times with them. But let's get into this March Madness bracket. Lots to cover here.
No time like the present for a bounce back is what I like to say. All right, Danny, let's get into Mox thought of the day. So free agency is starting today. There's going to be a lot of craziness, a lot of really good moves. I'm most anxious to hear about Jimmy Garoppolo and where he goes and, you know, mentally and emotionally preparing myself for that move. But so far, and really before free agency really kicked off today, the biggest move has been the Chicago Bears with their number one overall pick. They traded it to the Panthers. Compensation, they got a number 9 overall, so they're still in the first round. Number 61, a first round pick in 2024 and a second round pick in 2025, and wide receiver DJ Moore. Now, of course, we know that Carolina is in the market for a quarterback, and CJ Stroud has jumped atop of the odds boards for the number 1 overall. A week ago, it was Bryce Young. He was a steady favorite, but Vegas obviously clearly believing that Stroud is Carolina's guy. Danny, what do you think of this blockbuster trade? I mean, I think it's a huge win, and Chicago Bears fans have got to be stoked.
This is a massive win for Chicago. They trade 8 spots down in the draft and get all the war chest that you just mentioned, all those picks. DJ Moore, just for 8 spots, right? They still have the ninth pick of the draft. So, you know, I got one part of this right. I got one part, the other totally wrong. I didn't think that the Bears would pass on Fields and move on from him. So it made sense to trade this pick. And I figured with all the other teams vying for a quarterback in desperate need of one, that one of these players would make the move for this one pick and make the trade. Stroud moving to a minus 350 favorite is not something I saw happening. I thought it was Bryce Young, whoever did steal that one pick. Stroud has leapfrogged him. So, yeah, like you said, I guess Carolina has their sights set on him, but I did not expect that.
I didn't expect that too. And if we know anything, it's that we don't know anything, right? So, I mean, especially when it comes to the draft, it's like, you know, betting on it is always fun, but anything can happen there. And yeah, it is really interesting. Clearly, Vegas thinks that Stroud is Carolina's guy. Maybe they have some kind of insider information there. But I would have thought, well, not necessarily that the odds would have changed, but it would have flipped that much. I mean, I believe that Young was like minus 240. So it's like, it's done a really big flip there. But I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But super happy for Bears fans. They have not had something to be excited about in a very long time. You get someone like Justin Fields who's doing better. What did he really need is a good wide receiver, and they got that for him. Plus, they still have immediate picks in the draft. So we'll be interesting to see what Carolina does. I don't know. You're in the market for a quarterback, and then you give away one of your best wide receivers. You're not exactly helping out that quarterback too much. So we'll have to see what happens to Carolina. I still think they're probably rebuilding maybe for a couple more years, but shout out to the Chicago Bears. Super happy for you guys. And, you know, we'll see where Jimmy Garoppolo goes. Is there anything else before we move on with free agency that you're kind of looking forward to?
I'm going to watch this play out. I mean, obviously Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, right? The darkness retreat looked like it may have yielded a Jets result. Like the ayahuasca says New York. I'll be watching that more than anything.
Oh my God. I can't even believe I forgot about that. Yeah. I mean, the way that they moved around the cap space too to get, it just seems like all we're doing is waiting for the announcement from Aaron Rodgers. So that will be a really fun one as well. All right, we're going to take a quick break before we head into Capper's Corner. Spoiler alert, you're not going to win every bet that you place. But with Caesar Sportsbook, win or lose, every bet gives you reward credits and tier credits, which you can exchange for the best perks in the game. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. Download the Caesar Sportsbook app and start earning with Caesar's Rewards. Welcome back to Moxie Bets. Before we get into Capper's Corner, We've got something exciting to announce. The Moxie Bet Bracket Challenge is live on ESPN Fantasy. You have 4 more days to build out the perfect bracket and challenge Danny, Kenny Bets Big, and myself to see who can go the furthest in the big dance. Whoever beats all of us will win a guest spot right here on Moxie Bets. You can give your picks if you want. You can tell your story, whatever. The floor is yours. So please enter our Moxie Bets Bracket channel that's over on ESPN Fantasy, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Don't forget to sign up today. Moxie Bets Bracket Challenge, ESPN Fantasy. Let's go. How you feeling about that, Danny? Do you think anyone can beat us?
How cool is that? I mean, look, I want to be confident, be like, no chance anyone's taking me down. But this is the freaking NCAA March Madness tournament where, my brackets look more like a kindergartner's drawing than an actual professional sports bettor making picks. So anyone's got a chance in this one. And that's what a fun prize opportunity. A guest spot on Moxie Bets, the most coveted podcast
Yes.
in all of sports. I mean, you got to beat us, guys. Get that guest spot.
Get that guest spot. Yeah, no, I'm excited. And it is anybody's game. It's always my two the last few years in my family pool, my 2 girl cousins who don't watch any sports at all, have, blissfully unaware of what's going on, and they seem to win every single year. So who knows? May the odds ever be ever in your favor, and we'll see who comes out on top. All right, Danny. Well, the number 1 seeds are set. We still got to do the first 4 games to figure out the rest of the bracket, but the number 1 seeds are set. You've got Alabama first overall. It's the first time that they have got that in program history. The last overall to win the championship was Louisville in 2013, so it doesn't always mean something good. Then you got Purdue, then you got Houston, you got Kansas. I will say Coach Bill Self is out of the hospital following a heart procedure. He's expected to return for the tournament, so that's very, very good for Kansas. The Jayhawks are looking to become just the 8th school to win back-to-back tournaments. Last time that was done was Florida Gators in 06-07. All right, Danny. So the number 1 seeds have gone 5 straight NCAA tournaments, have won. Who of this group is your favorite to at least make that Final Four?
It's tough because they've let us down time and time again in big spots, but I do like Houston.
Hello, Gonzaga.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Exactly. That's a good another brand name that ends up falling short in the dance. But I think Houston is another one of these teams that has a great path to at least get to the Final Four. We'll see what happens
Yeah.
when all the chips are on the line. But just the way that the bracket drew out, it ended up favoring them tremendously. Them and Kansas flipped roles. It looked like Kansas draws the shorter end of the stick there with their pathway, and Houston gets a higher overall seed than them. And you just look at their section of the bracket, it looks a lot more manageable than the other ones. There are less scary teams that have given really tough matchups. Not to say it's not going to happen without some bumps and bruises along the way, but just the path there looks the cleanest for Houston. So if they can play their style, defense and rebounding, they're going to give a lot of those teams in that section a lot of issues, and I like them to make the Final Four.
I agree with you. They worried me a little bit in the ACC tournament, losing to Memphis. And then, of course, their star guard, Marcus Sasser, it was out in that game. And we don't know how much longer or so he's going to be out. So that's a little bit of a worry for me there. But I agree with you in terms of just their path being the cleanest to get there. And they have been one of the best, if not the best teams in college basketball all year long. So I'm going to agree with you on that one and say Houston at least gets to the Final Four. Now let's talk Selection Day and some snubs. Who do you think was snubbed on Sunday?
I feel like Rutgers got snubbed a little bit. I mean, they rank pretty high in KenPom. Like they're in top 40 in overall KenPom rankings, and they went 10-10 in quad 1 and quad 2 wins. So they have 10 wins over good teams. The problem is if you lose to really bad teams, that just puts a bad stain on your reputation. They're like 2-4 against quad 3 teams. So their bad losses stung way more than the good wins helped, promote their spot and give them a good enough resume. And they just didn't have enough, I guess, in the bracketologist's eyes to make the dance. But I felt they were deserving. So I feel like Rutgers got snubbed.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And this one, mine isn't exactly a snub, but more of like a shocker. I mean, North Carolina not making the dance. They're the first AP preseason number 1 team to miss the tournament since NC State in 74 and 75. So North Carolina on the bad end of both of these, both State and University of North Carolina. So it's interesting to me too, because despite their 4 starters from last year's team that basically was the runner up here. They just never seemed to get it together this season. The Tar Heels were 2-9 in quadrant one games. So just a huge disappointment for North Carolina. And again, just a shocker that they are the first team since 74-75
Yeah, it's
not
really
to make the
wild. And
tournament.
if you think about that team, the main point that you made that I is so dumbfounding is so many starters returned to the team. The one guy
Yeah.
that's not on that team that I guess I didn't realize made as big of a difference as he might have is Brady Manick. He was hitting mid
Mm.
range and and long range shots. And they have Pete Nance now, but he wasn't quite the Brady Manick they needed. And just that one factor, I think, played a massive role. So it is wild to see, the Tar Heels not even in the dance. Feels odd.
Feels so odd. But, there's been a lot of shakeups over the last couple years. A lot of those blue bloods have not been performing necessarily as well. All right. Time to tip things off here with a look at the first four games happening this week. Now, two of them are tomorrow, two of them are Wednesday. We'll take a look at the Wednesday games on Wednesday. But for tomorrow, you got Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. They are the favorite here, minus 180 versus Southeast Missouri State. The line is 4, favoring Texas A&M-CC over under 154. What are you thinking for this one, Danny?
So I'm going with the over in this game, surprisingly enough. Normally I'm all unders, but this one I can't ignore the statistics. Simply put, the defenses leave a lot to be desired on this one. They're not in the first four for no reason, right? Something's been lackluster about these teams, but it's going to be the pace of play and the poor defense that I think leads this one over. I'm leaning
Mm.
towards Corpus Christi. It looks like they're just the better overall team. But I think the pace of play is going to be really, really quick in this one. Both teams like to run. And with a lack of ability to stop you on the other end, if it keeps up the whole game, this one should end in the 160s, 170s. So I think it's a good line over 153.5.
I agree with you on this one, and I was looking at some of the trends here. So the over has hit in SEMO's past 7 games, and in 5 of those 7 games, it's gone well over this 153 mark. The Islanders also have hit 75 or more points in 7 straight games and 13 of their last 14. So I agree with you. Not a lot of great defense here. So I think this is going to sail over. I am riding the over with you as well. All right, let's take a look at Mississippi State versus Pittsburgh. What do you think is going to happen here? You got MS State minus 125. You got Pittsburgh plus 105 money line. Spread 1.5, just slightly over a pick 'em here. This total 132.5.
Yeah, this is tight here. I like the Pitt Panthers a bit. I watched them a bunch this season. They were a pretty scrappy team. They could let you down here and there, but I watched them play some really good games. They most recently got rinsed by Duke, but if you put that game aside in their last one, they really gave Miami everything they could handle. And when Pittsburgh's backcourt is hitting their shots, they can stay in games with anybody. I just don't trust Mississippi State. Katie, they're one of the few teams that even
Yeah,
be in the first four is surprising with their 3-point shooting numbers. They
yeah,
are dead last in the nation, all of the
yeah.
country, and they still have a chance to make the dance here. So it really comes down to who can hit perimeter shooting to me in this game. If Pittsburgh, who has a good shooting backcourt, is hitting threes, three's worth more than 2, and Mississippi State can't hit them. So for that reason, more than anything, give me the Pitt Panthers at plus 105.
Yeah, look, this is an interesting case. I'm taking the other side of this. I am taking Mississippi State minus the 1.5, and you already hit on it. They're a very, very interesting case. They have the worst 3-point percentage at 26.6% amongst all D1 teams this season. But they have been pretty solid defensively, especially on the perimeter. They rank 15th nationally in offensive rebounding, and that's been kind of a problem for Pitt. And then you got Tulu Smith, who's basically been putting this team on his back. I expect a big game out of him. I'm going to look at his scoring prop. I'll probably look at that at some point tomorrow. I just think if they can win the rebound game, then they have a chance here. And they are 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games. But if you look at those spreads, they've been larger, 8, 5.5, 15.5. Then there was that 3.5 versus Vanderbilt. It's going to be tight. I think if they can win the rebound battle, that they can win this game. So I am going to go Mississippi State minus the 1.5. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of an ugly one, right? We don't know which way exactly this one's going to go. You can't necessarily trust either of them, but I'm going to lay the 1.5.
I think those are the 2 angles in this game because that's been Mississippi State's offense: is chuck a 3, miss it, Tolu Smith offensive rebound, put it back. Literally, their offense is like, Tolu, go grab our misses. So, and you're right, Pitt is weak on the offensive glass. So it ends up being who can hit their outside shots and who can scrap out more rebounds and get second chance opportunities. And whoever is able to do one or the other is going to take this game. So it should be an interesting one.
Yeah, there's It should be. That's the reason why it's only 1.5. All right, so we'll get into Wednesday's games on Wednesday. But we both said we like Houston to make the Final Four. Let's go ahead and just take a look at the odds to win it all. Houston is the favorite, plus 600. Then you got the Alabama Crimson Tide, who are the number one seed overall, but they're plus 700. Then you got the Jayhawks at plus 1,000, Purdue plus 1,000, Texas Longhorns plus 1,200, and then the UCLA Bruins also at plus 1,200. You know, again, I know that we all like Houston here, but based on the odds, who do you think is a good bet here to take it all?
I don't want to, and plus 600 isn't really chalk, but I don't want to like play Houston.
Yeah,
Like I said, I have trust issues with them,
agree.
and they've always seemed to just lack enough offensive firepower to like put them over. They're always so good on defense, great rebounding team, which are the fundamentals, but you got to put the ball in the bucket to win games, and sometimes they can't
Mhm.
do that enough. So I'm not going to go with them. And it feels like to me, Kansas should have been the favorite, but because of their draw and because of their path and because of the Bill Self health concerns, they're down to plus 1,000. Hey, the question is, where do you
Yeah,
find the most value? I think at plus 1,000, I find Kansas to be the most valuable. I know it's so hard to repeat, but like they feel like to me, alongside Alabama, the most complete and the most dangerous team that has the
yeah.
chance to beat anybody. Like in fighting, they say styles make fights, right? You have a wrestler versus a striker, a kickboxer versus a jiu-jitsu guy. Well, who's going to be able to implement that style? I feel like it's very similar in March Madness, right? Styles will make these games.
Yeah.
Who can run faster? Who can get in transition? Who can stay in the half court? And I'm just looking for like I'm calling them bombs in each bracket. Like, okay,
Mm,
I'm looking at Bama. Who's taking down Bama in the South? Maybe Baylor scares me. If that backcourt is,
mm,
catches fire, they could beat anybody. All right, but Bama's a pretty safe pick. I wouldn't be mad at that. I'm looking at the East. There's no chance Purdue gets through the East. I don't trust Purdue at all. I think they're very vulnerable. In the Midwest, there's a ton of bombs for Houston. I
Yeah,
think Xavier's a tough matchup.
yeah.
There's so many. Indiana can scrap it up. Miami might give them problems. So look, I can name this for every single bracket, but I feel that Kansas's matchups are all beatable, despite having some tough
Yeah.
ones littered in there that they might have to see. UConn, TCU, UCLA. I mean, all tough teams, but I like Kansas's completeness more than anything. So they feel the least scary and the team that can avoid the bombs, I think.
I agree with you, and I'm going Kansas mostly because it's like 10-1. I didn't want to go all chalk. They are the number one seed for the 16th time. That's the second most of all time behind just UNC that has 17. And like you said, I do think that Bill Self, having his medical issue kind of had them drop, but thank God he got out of his procedure successfully. He is expected back for the tournament. Why not do it for your coach that just had some kind of heart procedure? You know what I mean? Like if you need some motivation, do it for Coach Self. So I always love to look at those kind of narratives too, especially when it comes to March Madness. Now, of course, you don't want to bet all narrative, but in college and things like this, I feel like your coach having a procedure and coming back and coaching for you, even though he just came out, is a really big confidence booster and a big reason for these kids to play. So at 10-1, I also like Kansas. To repeat. Plus, that's just a fun one as well. All right. So that's it for college basketball. We obviously will get way more into this. And please sign up for our Moxie Bets Bracket Challenge to face me, Danny Brasco, and Kenny Bets Big for a spot here on Moxie Bets. Time now for some Caesars quick picks for tonight's NBA slate. First, you got defend home court at plus 750. That's Trae Young to get over 2.5 3-pointers, also to get over 10.5 assists, and Dejounte Murray to get over 5.5 assists. Then you got the three amigos, which is my favorite, plus 480. Steph Curry over 28.5 points. Klay Thompson over 3.5 3-pointers. And Mr. Green, Draymond over 6.5 assists. And then you've got Bring the Heat at plus 440. You've got Jimmy Butler over 24.5 points, over 4.5 assists. And Tyler Hero over 2.5 3-pointers. Danny, which way are you going for these Caesars quick picks?
Hey, I mean, the last two times I've been on the show, I've been giving out Jimmy Butler props. They both cash. So why wouldn't I stay with my guy?
Yeah.
Bring the heat. Jimmy has a good game, dishes a couple to Tyler Hero over there in the corner. This is cashing. So I'll take the bring the heat.
I love it, but you know where I gotta go? I gotta go with my guys, the Warriors, and I'm gonna take the three amigos. Steph Curry has scored at least 27 points per game since returning from injury, so that's right at this mark. Thompson's been on absolute fire from the arc lately, hitting 39 triples over the last 8 games. That one seems pretty good to me. And then you got Draymond Green. He did have an ankle injury, so he might be affected a little bit defensively, so I look for him to be a great facilitator tonight. So give me the three amigos at plus, what is it? Plus 480. Let's go. All right. So now let's get into some picks for tonight for Mox Locks. What do you think in NBA?
So I'm looking at the two marquee matchups, ESPN games, primetime. Those are always the most fun. Grizzlies, Mavericks, first one. And Mavericks are dealing with a bunch of injuries. Luka Doncic still out. Kyrie Irving questionable. So who am I looking at? Another person in the backcourt, Tim Hardaway, whose props aren't quite out yet. So this isn't an official pick. It's more like once it does come out, I'm gonna fire on it right away. I don't really care what the number is, of course, if it's not something egregious, but his usage goes way up when Luka Doncic is out. And he's coming off a really good game in the last one where they were in a battle against the Grizzlies, and they'll see him again here. So I like Hardaway to carry the load for a Mavs team that's a little banged up tonight.
I like that. The Grizzlies are just such an annoying team to me, and they just beat the Warriors too. So, but I like that. I like looking at Hardaway there. I'm gonna go with the Atlanta Hawks -2 in the first half versus the Timberwolves. And this is an interesting matchup. Hawks and Timberwolves, they're both fighting for a playoff spot, right? And they're both sitting just right at 500. The Timberwolves on a 2-game losing streak, just 7-16 in conference play this year. And over their last 10 games, they're just 4-6 straight up and against the spread. So not doing too hot there in Minnesota. Even worse on the road. They're just 14-18 straight up. Gobert and Rivers are questionable for tonight. And of course, they still have no Karl Anthony Towns, who is their lead scorer. The Hawks have won 2 of their last 3 games. Full game side, I don't know that I trust the Hawks to cover this 5.5, especially because I do think when it comes to the playoff picture, Minnesota might be a little bit hungrier. They need this win a little bit more, but I do expect the Hawks to come out well and to play well, at least in that first half. They always do well on home court. So I'm going to take a -2 in the first half, and we'll see what happens in that second half.
You're good on your first half bets. A lot of the time you attack those spots. I've noticed the Knicks first half has been a cash cow for you, so first half plays are the angle here.
Yeah, and you know what? I've been doing pretty good in the NBA, so we're starting to heat up over here on the Mox side of things. What else are you looking at for the NBA tonight?
So I can't leave the show without giving you guys an under, right? It would be just wrong.
Yes.
So I'm going to look at the late night game, ESPN Suns Warriors. To me, this is the game of the night. I mean, major implications in this game too, between the 4 seed in the West and the 12 seed, the team looking to try to get in. They're only separated by 4.5 games, and these teams fall within that category right here. So this is actually a big game. I'm going to go with the under because of that. I think because this is a playoff preview, this will be their 4th meeting, and the Suns sweeping the other 3. So they're looking for the season sweep 4-0 here. Maybe Warriors come to play some defense and bear down a little, right? You don't want to let a team beat you 4-0. The total opened at 240, immediately dropped 4 points to 236. Maybe it looks like odds makers set it too high. I didn't get the 240, I got the 236, but feels like maybe they were shading it a bit high, and I'm going to grab the under here, expecting defense in a playoff preview type game.
I love that, and I'm going to go kind of in the same route here. I'm looking at Steph Curry, but I'm going to take him over 5.5 assists tonight. This is at plus money at plus 115. So I feel like based on Curry's last performance, I mean, the guy poured 22 points in the 4th quarter and overtime. He had that 3-point shot that basically tied up the game, and then he had that crazy block. So everyone's real high on Curry right now, and I know they're going to pour the points on his over and scoring, which I took in the Caesars quick picks. However, I'm going to look at his assist tonight because I do feel like he's going to be a great facilitator. Like you said, it's a playoff picture here tonight. It's going to be all hands on deck, and he averages about 6.5 assists per game versus the Suns in his career, 5.7 per game this season versus the Suns. So look for Curry to be a facilitator tonight. Don't necessarily take the trap on his scoring, because I do think this is going to be a full team effort tonight, but I hope that the Warriors still secure that win.
I like that. I like that more than the scoring prop a lot too, especially for these big name guys. Like they'll juice up that line, and maybe you can find another statistic that, based on the game style, that's a little better play. Plus money on the assists. I like this a lot. They're going to need to facilitate against a Suns team who has a really good defensive rating. So this looks like a good angle.
Let's go. All right, Danny, thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget to, again, everybody, join our bracket challenge on ESPN Fantasy. It is the Moxie Bets Bracket Challenge. All right, this has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social. We'll see you next time and join our bracket again.